Okay, so hopefully the last one was good. This one I really enjoy. It's a pretty fun deck. It's also not particularly easy to play, but we'll figure that out together. So mana base is definitely sketchy. I don't have all of my fetch lands in this deck, so I only have these 2 fetches right now. Tried to put as many dual lands in here as I could muster that weren't all of my fetches, because I may put back together 5 color. So this kind of just explains itself. Warped I'll probably just take out for another basic. Reliquary because we fill the hand up pretty hard, and then Sunhome because you can OTK with Feather once you give her Double Strike, or something else Double Strike for that matter. Okay, so then ramp. Can't go too crazy on colorless ramp because there's so many colored spells. Thought Vessel because you want Reliquary Tower effects without too many Reliquary Towers. Signet, basically a Signet. That and the previous one draw. This is technically ramp, but it's also one of your sort of win conditions. Goggles. Then I'll just get miscellaneous over with first, so swords and path because Boros deck. Thrill just for a little bit of filtering. Same with thrilling discovery. Heartwarming, you go really plus in this deck in terms of just things going to your hand. So this is like you build a handful of shit and then you wheel for like 10 or 11 if you need to. Plus you gain life. And then this is just an insane card, Pause and Raid. Okay, then moving on to creatures. There are definitely different ways to build Feather. As I've done a little homework, I've played against it a bunch. I like the creature heavier lists because it plays different more often than not, rather than just turboing your Feather as Voltron. So for creatures, Mom, this I'd say Pause and Read. It's Vigilant, and then when Heroic, you make a 1/1 Vigilant Cat for Heroic. This one basically has Prowess. When Prowess would be fulfilled, it gets +1 and 0, and you scry. Young Peasy, Dreadhorde Arcanist. Now, technically, instants and sorceries don't go to grave if they're bounced off Feather, but on the downside, you have to use them like when Feather is removed or something. So Dreadhorde exiles them, targets like something while Feather is out, and then they ultimately go back to hand because of the Feather delayed trigger. This scries, you just pause. Krenko's insane. You just make him really big, swing, and then bake a bunch of goblins. It's kind of like an alternate win con. Gutter Snipe's kind of cute. It's more just in here because it's foil. Iron Crag is a little bit of removal. Relatively new card, but it fits the bill. Zada is like one of the most important cards in the deck. You go really wide with Peasy and the cat, and I used to have a Crow and Crusader in here, and then you could target all your shit, which is pretty cool. Bruce Taro, I'm not really sure that we need him, but like, it helps you OTK. This is a really fun one from the relatively new set. Each time you cast something, they're mostly 1 or 2 mana spells, so you'll make a treasure and then it'll help you keep going. Otherwise, you could just make a bunch of treasures and then just push for a game with him. This is Neheb, so it's got Trample, and when it clicks a player, you can discard any number of cards and draw that many, and then for each card discarded, you put red in your mana pool that doesn't go away between phases. So it helps you loot, which is why we have the card that the Boros one that gets all that different types of shit back. Dreadhorde Arcanist. Otherwise, it's it's got Trample. It's a legendary. It's like pretty fun and flavorful. So, Precursor Golem. I've always wanted to play this in a deck. So you target it. You target all of your golems. I also have another golem in the deck, so they combo together. Balefire Liege. Pretty fun. You kind of just can machine gun everyone down with red spells. Mirrorwing Dragon is basically Zada. And then we get on to spells. So God's Willing, Apostle's Blessing, Shelter, draws a card, Ephemeral Shields. These are all like protection spells right now. This one, you can convoke multiple things, so you just need 2 things. And like Feather, sometimes I could give it Vigilance, so like you could just like keep up the Feather as white for the white part of Ephemeral. Sheltering Light is a scry and plus indestructible. This one has Strive, and all of the things get indestructible and +1/+1, I think, until end of turn. Valor Stance is double duty. Bolt Bend, as long as you pump Feather by 1, you could protect her or just something larger. Defiant Strike is draw. Bandage is draw, but sometimes is useful. Rile is draw and gives Trample, so that's really good. Guided Strike is just another Defiant Strike. Johnny's Influence is pretty cool because it's permanent buff and also it's pretty decent filtering, although it's a little bit overcosted. I just enjoy playing it. And then we move on to like the very aggressive cards. So 1 mana Double Strike, 2 mana Double Strike, only for multicolored, plus draw card, so perfect for Feather. We all know what this card does. This is removal, so 2 damage to anything I control, 4 damage to anything I don't, and instant speed. Fall of the Hammer, instant speed, damage equal to target creature's power to another target creature. This is instant speed, damage equal to power to anything, which is pretty great for 3 mana. Titan Strength is Scry plus buff. Balduvan Rage is buff plus draw, and it's modular. Stand Firm is Scry plus buff. Show of Confidence is if you're like machine gunning off spells, then you get a bunch of shit on something, a bunch of counters. And then also Vigilance is decent with Feather because then it's good on blocks with permanent buffs. Then some lifelink, got Mortal's Ardor, Moment of Heroism. I'm not really sure that I need that much lifelink. Boros Charm is sort of just like a multifaceted spell. And this is what I call the big uns, the big playmaker spells. So Seize the Day gives you multiple combats, but also you could flash it back from your grave and then still get it to your hand with Feather's effects, so you definitely want this card in here. Chandra's Ignition, so preferably you just have Feather on the board, and you just make it, like 10 or 11 power, and then just 11 literally everything and everyone, including your shit, but, who cares? Aurelia's Fury, the way to use this card is you swing with Feathers first, then you Aurelia's Fury, your own Feather for 1 damage, plus everything else that you want to hit. So, you tap everything else down, you hit people, which silences them, so it's pretty great. Then Radiate, obviously good with your own shit. You pause and read, but it's just really funny because if someone gets carried away with like a big powerful spell, you could Radiate and just cause chaos. Shadow Spear, I just think it's helpful because I have a fair amount, some amount of removal. Plus, permanent trample lifelink is nice, but it's also nice to turn off hexproof. Sword, I just realized that this should be in here, so I threw it in. I made space for it because you untap your lands, and that seems pretty obviously good. And otherwise, pro black-green doesn't prohibit you from targeting it with Boros things. And then Sunforger, because we have a million spells in here. Ephemeral, what is it called? Imperial Armor. Yeah, so +X, where X is your hand. It's an aura. It's, I think, the only aura in the deck. Then Aria of Flame. This one's really fun. So everyone's going to gain 10, but then you just start machine gunning down. It's sort of like Aetherflux Reservoir, kind of, sort of. So very, very fun card. Primal Amulet just sort of makes sense in its own right. You could flip it, you double things up, and you cheapen some of the 2 and 3 drops. And then last but not least, Aetherflux Reservoir. So I think that's an even 99 right now.